Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Sometimes the simplest move can be a whole ordeal. In the first story, our OP ran into a horrible company that was doing some shady stuff. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Colorado Nightmare Moving Company hijacked property for more money, called police to bully, never finished job, and damaged furniture. Hired a moving company to move one bedroom plus additional boxes to a two-bedroom apartment. A man who I thought was the owner quoted a rate and a 3-hour maximum to move. Midway through moving things into my new apartment, the two movers stopped and asked me to sign the move-out portion of the contract and asked me to pay cash for double what was initially quoted. I refused as they hadn't finished the job and the price was double. The two movers leave to go to the truck, lock half my belongings in the moving truck, lock themselves in the cab of the truck, and refuse to talk. The owner is yelling at me, is verbally harassing, demanding double. I ask to negotiate. Owner repeatedly calls along with his wife, and he's yelling and threatening to call the police. I offered to pay the price that was initially quoted and $150 more for them to finish the job. The owner ends up calling the police for no other valid reason other than to intimidate and bully. Police officers calling, moving company owner is calling. Police say that type of moving scam happens all the time and I should take them to small claims. I finally Venmo the owner what he wants as they were threatening to take the rest of my belongings, which included my beds, to storage. They then unload everything into the parking garage and leave. They didn't finish the job in moving my belongings to the actual apartment listed on the contract. I ended up moving the rest myself and injured my back in the process. I never did sign the move-out portion of the contract. The movers did damage furniture they moved into the unit. I do have pictures of the property they left in the parking garage of the apartment building as well as the damage to furniture. Not sure what my next course of action should be, so these vultures are held accountable and don't want others to experience the same. Edited, I reported this to BBB, FMCSA, BCA, Colorado Attorney General, Venmo, and to the company, two movers, who referred them. Also left reviews wherever I could. Realized that the pictures they're using online are not their own, they're using other mover photos, and are even using a fake A+ BBB rating as their own. The owner and his wife wrote their own 5-star reviews as well. And our second story. Truck driving. I used to drive for the 5th largest trucking company in America at the time. They had all sorts of problems, trucks that always broke down, directions that were never right. This was before commercial routes could be programmed on GPSs. I once had to ask a driver from another company for directions to one of my own company's yards. Now they've got a new CEO, and I hope things have been fixed. I always meant to send them a letter, but I never did. I arrived to pick up a trailer, hooked up, did my mandatory inspection, and found that the trailer had a flat tire. The tire was just hanging off the rim, but otherwise appeared to have no damage. I got on my Qualcomm, a satellite communication system, and I sent in one of the message templates to dispatch. Message 157, 5:01 p.m. Friday, repairs required, flat tire. At 5:01 p.m., I had the weekend dispatcher. I sat around for quite some time waiting for a reply. When no reply came, I repeated the message. When I still got no reply, I messaged dispatch directly, asking if my messages got through and when repairs were coming. Finally, I got a reply. 1:59 dispatch. We need to know the tire size. While I'm a professional driver licensed to drive in over 150 countries, I'm embarrassed to say I never had the need to buy a tire before and didn't know which of the many things written on the tire contained the information they needed. So in message 160 to dispatch, I relayed every single thing written on the tire to them. 161 dispatch. The fleet uses a universal tire size. 162 truck to dispatch. Then why did you ask me? Several hours passed and there were no further messages and no one came to conduct repairs. Finally, I called them on the phone. They said someone would be there shortly. After several more hours came and went, I called again and they said to stop calling because I was tying up the line and bothering them. Ooh, that pissed me off. So I disconnected my Kenworthless 500 from the trailer, parked out of the way, and started reading a book I had. Friday night passed, Saturday passed, Sunday passed. Monday morning, 9:01 a.m., when the regular 9 to 5 weekday dispatcher came back on duty, my cell phone began ringing off the hook. "Why haven't you rolled? You've been idle for over 60 hours. "Oh, I was ready for this. "Well, sir, if you look at message 157, you'll see that I called in for a repair." I heard the beeping of the computer as he pulled up the message menu and saw the repair request. "You were supposed to send in the tire size." "Well, sir, if you look at messages 160 and 161, you'll see that I did send in the tire size, and after I did that, I was told the entire fleet only uses one type of tire." But, well, why didn't you ask them what the holdup was?" "Well, sir, if you look at messages 163 and 164, you'll see I did ask them what the holdup was." The guy was stammering and stuttering at this point. Why didn't you use the phone and call dispatch directly?" "Well, sir, if you check the call logs, you'll see that I did call dispatch twice." "You did?" "Yes." "And what did they say?" In my sweetest smart butt voice, I said they told me not to call them anymore because I was bothering them. "Do you mean to tell me you've sat idle for 60 hours because of a stinking tire?" Apologetically, I said, "Dispatch told me to wait, sir." He was out of breath. "Don't move, someone will be there in 20 minutes. 19 minutes later, a guy showed up, laughing his butt off when he pulled up because apparently the dispatcher had vented to him the entire trip there. The repair guy had a tire and a number of pieces of equipment with him in his pickup truck. He looked at the tire, informed me that the tire had no damage, but had merely lost pressure to the point where it had come loose from the rim. All that needed to be done was for it to be put back on the rim and repressurized. Since the tire was hanging there, a huge gap between the tire and the rim, I asked him how one could possibly reinflate it. He took out an old propane tank that had a large pipe welded to it with what looked like the triangular end of a vacuum cleaner on it. He shoved the triangular piece into the gap between the rim and the tire and opened this large handle valve that was on the pipe. The entire contents of the tank shot into that gap all at once. The pressure popped the tire back in place onto the rim. He then used an air compressor to finish reinflating the tire to full pressure, had me sign something, then went on his way. I used a message template to tell dispatch I was hooked up to the trailer and beginning departure. I also direct messaged dispatch saying something like, "Thank you for getting the repairs arranged." I got a direct message back that simply said, "Uh-huh." That weekend dispatcher was immediately fired. And our last story? Purchased a condo, seller rented it to his nephew the day before contracts were signed. Condo was vacant for roughly 60 days between closing and our attempt to move in. Upon getting there with our belongings, we discovered a new deadbolt on the door. The unit was vacant and had no deadbolt when we did our final walkthrough the day before closing. Tried knocking on the door, got no answer, reached out to our realtor who contacted the seller's agent and asked that he get in touch with his client to find out what the hell's going on. But at this point, we assumed squatters. About an hour later, a young man showed up and produced a 36-month lease which had been paid in advance, all $1 of it. He told us it's between us and his uncle and headed into the apartment. Our realtor is flabbergasted. He's encountered squatters and tenants who had to be evicted after refusing to leave at the end of the lease, but never anything like this. The police won't touch this either, which makes perfect sense given the context. Dude has a lease that predates our contract, albeit by 1 day, so as far as they're concerned, it's a civil matter. The condo association is incredibly hands-off about owners leasing their properties, which is part of why this place was appealing, as I plan to rent it out myself when we're ready to buy a house, so they want nothing to do with the situation. To me, it seems like the lease should be completely void given that it was executed in ridiculously bad faith, but I'm nowhere near a lawyer. To that end, the attorney who handled the transaction for us is out of town till next week. My understanding is that he's camping or hiking or hunting or something along those lines and is basically incommunicado for the time being. But I'm waiting to hear back from his admin to get details. He's a one-man firm, so there are no associates that can help me in the interim. Luckily, the truck we were using to move is owned by a friend's business, and they've graciously offered to let us store our belongings in it while we get this sorted. Unluckily, my wife and I turned in the keys to our old apartment this morning, and as such, we have nowhere to go. Update, 4:45 p.m. I just got a call from my attorney's admin. He's apparently close enough to civilization to have an internet connection in his cabin and should be checking in with her shortly, at which point she'll have him reach out to me. Apparently, he was a civil litigator before he retired to real estate law, and she thinks he'll welcome an excuse to step into his old shoes and tear these people apart. Needless to say, I'm looking forward to hearing from him. Update 2, 5:25 p.m. Just heard from both my realtor and my attorney. The evening seems to have found a way to get even more interesting, but the truck-owning friend is about 5 minutes out with my car. We're going to meet my realtor for dinner, my closing documents, and some badly needed drinks, said the guy who doesn't really drink. I'll update tomorrow morning, if not tonight. But till then. Update 3. After the mess on Wednesday, I met my realtor for dinner and to grab my closing docs. The seller's agent actually wound up stopping by as well. He arranged this with my guy. He apologized profusely, told us he knows the family, and he's confident we'll be able to get things sorted quickly. I didn't get my hopes up, but he picked up our tab and bought a round of drinks while he was there. So hey, when life gives you lemons, make a superhuman amount of whiskey. I don't think that's accurate, but it was my approach, and I stand by it. Anyway, I wound up speaking with the seller, Ann, yesterday morning and got the rundown on the situation. It turns out the unwelcome tenant, Bill, is actually her nephew, not her ex's, Charlie. She was absolutely livid with Bill and promised me the apartment would be vacant ASAP, even if she had to physically drag him out herself and pay for movers to take all of his stuff. She also gave me assurances that she'd cover whatever this ordeal has cost. From there, she said she was going to check in with her sister, Diane, who was dealing with Bill as we spoke, and get back to me as soon as she knows something. But again, promised that the absolute worst-case scenario would be Bill starting to move out by early afternoon. Maybe half an hour later, she calls back and tells me that Diane had rented a truck and Bill was in the process of packing his stuff up. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.